is frightful to know how far people would go in order to stop what they believe to be evil. But it is even more frightful to acknowledge the severity of a mob mentality and the effects that it can have on a society. Prisons were filled, and villagers were lined up to be seen by the courts. The fear of being branded as a witch spread throughout the states. Husbands turned against their wives, friends turned against their friends, and neighbors turned against their neighbors, with nothing but fear fueling their actions. The entirety of Salem was at odds.
Salem was founded by Roger Compton in 1626. He, along with a group of settlers from Cape Ann, settled at the mouth of River Nomkeg. The land in which Salem was settled upon proved to be well endowed, for it offered a plentiful amount of fish. The fertile land was an added bonus, allowing Salem's citizens to harvest and stay sustained through the harsh winters. It was an ideal area to begin a settlement.
Religion was the cornerstone of Salem. The Puritans had an exceptionally strict interpretation of their religion. Their core beliefs centered around an emphasis of both the righteousness and sovereignty of God, and they did not hold their priests to the same standards as Catholicism. Rather, they were thought to be on an equivalent scale as the Congregation. The Puritans' views on salvation were derived from the Old Testament. They believed that every sin committed was reprehensible. Additionally, conformity was a social norm within the society, and any deviations from the established standards were frowned upon.
It all began with a lie that contorted into something beyond reason and beyond any expectations. Reverend Parris arrived with his daughter, Betty Parris, and niece, Abigail Williams, into the town of Salem. The girls upon arrival began having unnatural and violent fits. The girls would attest to being tormented by unseen forces, and their bodies would often contort into seemingly and unnatural positions. The girls attributed their fits to witchcraft, and 3 women were condemned as a result of this. One of the women, Tituba, was a slave who pleaded guilty due to her pressure from her master. Her testimony of witchcraft gave credibility to the afflicted girl's claim and intensified fear within the community. Many more children and women began to have fits after this, and a widespread panic has developed as a result. The initial cause for these fits can be credited to several explanations. But despite of the sudden seizures were real, witchcraft was seen as the only logical cause in that age.
The Salem Witch Trials were believed to be predominantly inflamed by mass hysteria raised by smallpox. Smallpox caused an alarming rate in children's death. The only explanation for this work was the witches.
Religion was a common factor of the hysteria. This raised an issue as people who didn't believe in the common religion were seen as devil worshippers. Many of the people who were targeted were not members of the church or were not up to par with Puritan standards. Attack on heretics contributed to the delirium of the time. Puritan beliefs made it easy to believe in the devil, thus witches were widely accepted and a reasonable notion. They believed in God, and any practicing Christian believed in the devil's existence.
Despite all that was happening, some people remained hopeful that in the end, everything would return to normal. Many people thought that the simple solution would be to kill them all. Other people were totally opposed to this because their loved ones were bewitched. Everyone who had an opinion was biased in one way or the other. The only way to determine what to do was to bring it to court. The creation of the court was the only way to create a fair ruling.
Like any human, jealousy is something everybody feels. Humans have a bad habit of becoming jealous or seeking revenge. The villagers of Salem were no different. Relations between the citizens of the small community became tense. Everybody tried blaming one another to get the targets off their back. People targeted for these blames were just the ones who had the issues. Jealousy of one of them played a huge issue in society. The poor people would often accuse the upper-class individuals or the enemies of witchcraft to unjustly punish them. Revenge was also a common factor. People had issues with people. That's just a part of life. However, people used the witch accusations as a way to get revenge on the people who have done them wrong in the past. Dear Diary, today is April 3rd, 1692. I'm very scared. Everyone thinks I'm a monster. No, everybody thinks I'm a beast. No, a witch. Everyone thinks I'm a witch. What do I do? Today my friends turned on me. Tomorrow my family turns on me. What will I have left? Who will I have left? I wish I was saved. The Puritans' belief on how real the devil was made it easy for the idea of witchcraft. Witches were believed to have made the pact with the devil, and this was how they were connected. The Puritans had the idea that Satan uses power to disrupt Puritan society. They believed that their settlement, the wilderness, was the devil's natural habitat. Thus, they were an easy target for the devil's work. The strong belief that the devil has used much of his power is believed the witches disrupt society. Dear Diary, today is April 8th, 1692. Today will be my first court appearance. I'm terrified. I wish I knew what to expect. I wish I knew who would attend. I hope I don't embarrass myself in front of everybody. I already embarrassed myself enough. What do I say? Gosh, I'm scared. Just got out of my first ever court appearance. Man, that was scary. It was just as bad as I thought it would be, if not worse. I got attacked. Attacked like a piece of bread gets attacked by birds. Everybody was against me. I really hate this.
Despite all that was happening, some people remained hopeful that in the end, everything would return to normal. Many people thought that the simple solution would be to kill them all. Other people were totally opposed to this because their loved ones were bewitched. Everyone who had an opinion was biased in one way or the other. The only way to determine what to do was to bring it to court. The creation of the court was the only way to create a fair ruling.
The trials began with the creation of the Court of Oyer and Terminer. With the creation of these courts, many people rushed to the courts and accused many. The courts started to overflow with victims. Chief Justice William Stoughton kept order throughout the whole process in the courts. He heard all of the cases and ruled on all of them. While hearing the cases, he led a court filled with jurors and magistrates. The jurors and magistrates helped aid Chief Justice William Stoughton.
Samuel Sewall was born in England in 1652. He obtained 2 degrees from Harvard and became an esteemed member of the middle class. When the trials began, the governor selected Sewall to preside as a judge in the court of Oyer and Terminer.
Monday, September 19th, 1692. About noon at Salem, Giles Corey was pressed to death for standing mute. Much pains was used with him 2 days, one after the other, by the court and Captain Gardner of Nantucket, who had been of his acquaintance, but all in vain.
Whenever conflicts would arise and debate would occur, everyone would go to the court of Oyer. Official complaints that were deemed worthy, they would go to the court of Oyer. This would help keep order and prevent the spread of witchcraft. However, in order to be seen as a court, they must first get a warrant. Once they received the necessary warrant, they would be subject to a trial. The trial was a 5-step process. Once the trials actually began, there's a 5-step process. The first step is recitation of the Lord's Prayer. Once this happened, you must have a full physical to proceed the process. Next, the townspeople would testify in court. After the testimonies were completed, spectral evidence would take place. This means a witness's testimony of the accused person or spirit. Finally, the last step of confession would occur. Anybody would make any final confessions before the official ruling was made.
Saturday, October 15th. Went to Cambridge and visited Mr. Danforth, and discoursed with him about the witchcraft. Thinks there cannot be a procedure in the court except there be some better consent of ministers and people.
All rise for Chief Justice William Stoughton.
Please be seated. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we'll hear the case between Elizabeth Booth and Amelia Wilkins. Are both sides ready?
Ready, Your Honor.
Ready, Your Honor.
May the plaintiff give her opening statement.
The defendant has been charged with 3 counts of witchcraft. The evidence will show that Miss Amelia Wilkins is unable to recite a Bible verse without disturbing an afflicted, and contains the mark of a witch upon her forearm. Furthermore, the spectral account of Lacey Williams shows that the devil takes form in Miss Wilkins.
And now the defendant.
My name is Amelia Wilkins. I'd like to start off by saying that I am completely innocent. Her accusations are all lies to imprison me, set up from pure vengeance. If anything, she is the one who has been acting suspiciously. This nonsense is all derived from her strange behavior, and not mine.
The prosecution may call its first witness.
I call Lacey Williams to the stand.
Please stand. Raise your right hand. Do you promise that the testimony you shall give in the case before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your first and last name.
Lacey Williams.
You may be seated.
Now, Lacey, are you familiar with Miss Amelia Wilkins?
Yes, she is my neighbor.
And do you believe that Mrs. Wilkins is a witch?
Yes.
Please tell the court why you feel this way.
All right. It was about 2 weeks or so ago. I was in bed sleeping. My dreams are usually things I remember, but oh, I do remember this one. It was Mrs. Wilkins, covered in blood, with a severed pig on her body, chanting some horrid phrase. A moment passed, and a dark figure started circling his head. It was the devil. The devil went into her body. No, the devil became her body. They were one and the same. It was awful.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Does the prosecution have any witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. I call Amelia Wilkins to the stand.
Please stand. Raise your right hand. Do you promise that the testimony you shall give in the case before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your first and last name.
Amelia Wilkins.
You may be seated.
Miss Wilkins, I simply ask you to recite a Bible verse in the presence of the afflicted. Do you agree to do so?
If you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is with your heart that you believe and are justified, and it is with your mouth that you profess your faith and are saved.
Thank you. You may leave now. Now, Miss Wilkins, can you please present your left forearm to the people of the court? Look, there, the mark of a witch. There is all the evidence needed to prove she is a witch. I rest my case.
Is the defense ready with their case?
I have no witness, but I would like to argue that Lacey Williams' dream was just that, a dream. I barely know the afflicted girl, who could have very well been hired by her plaintiff to do her bidding. And lastly, I've had this birthmark since birth. The only reason that I'm being accused is because 2 years ago I gave her a bad deal on some crops. This is all out of revenge. I've done nothing wrong. Putting me in prison would be a gross miscarriage of justice.
Do you have any physical evidence?
No.
Ladies and gentlemen of the court, I've come to a quite reasonable and evident ruling. The plaintiff's case runs true. Miss Amelia Wilkins will be sentenced to 10 years in prison. After that is completed, she will be hanged. This would be effective immediately. Thank you all for coming.
The trials resulted in the accusation of around 200 people and the execution of 20. In order to avoid a penalty of death, many of those accused pleaded guilty to witchcraft. This was due to the fact that oftentimes those who denied the accusations of witchcraft were killed without a proper investigation of their case. The people who were sentenced to death would be killed in front of the townspeople to show what would happen to them if they were to be bewitched or hurt the fellow townspeople. This was also a way to humiliate the person in their final moments of life.
Oftentimes, the settlement of the hearing would be done by the judge, and he would then run his decision by his jurors and his magistrates.
Those who were sentenced to a life in prison could be considered the unlucky ones. Instead of dying on the spot, they had to suffer for many years. Many people would have rather been killed in front of the townspeople instead of being forced to live under such detrimental conditions for the rest of their lives.
During the duration of the trials, there were many disputes and arguments. Many, if not all of the arguments, were about accusations of bewitchment. Many people got into physical fights, and unfortunately, some of the people never fully recovered from this. Everyone had a large, biased opinion on the cause pandemonium in the courts. Due to this, many well-respected ministers believed that numerous innocent people were imprisoned and even assaulted or killed during the process. All of the assumptions and accusations eventually led to the governor's wife. Obviously, this was not taken easy by the governor, and he eventually ended the trials. The paranoia had spread too far, and too many innocent people were accused of bewitchment. Even if they clearly had nothing to do with the hearing, they were accused. This was done out of fear and their own protection. Many people were afraid of getting the hysteria.
After the trials were completely finished, Salem took a while to return to unity and harmony. The village may never be the same, however, the town now has a sense of pride in the struggles it overcame.
The process of restoration began with the release of those who were still being held in prison due to the charges of witchcraft. These prisoners were released on September 22nd of 1693. Another factor in the restoration was the removal of harmful religious leaders.
October 26th, 1692. A bill is sent in about calling a fast, and the convocation of ministers that may be led in the right way as the witchcrafts. The season and manner of doing it, us such, that the court of Oyer and Terminer count themselves thereby dismissed. 29 nos and 33 yes. To the bill of Captain Bradsheet and Lieutenant True, William Hutchins, and several other interested persons there in the affirmative. Due to the many losses, Salem felt that it was necessary to compensate the families that lost their loved ones. The Salem townspeople felt ashamed that many innocent names will be forever tarnished due to the false accusations.
5 years after the trials, Samuel Sewall issued a public apology for his actions.
November 22nd, 1692. I prayed that God would pardon all my sinful wanderings and direct me for the future. That God would bless the assembly in their debates, and that would choose and assist our judges, and save New England as to enemies and witchcrafts, and vindicate the late judges consisting of his justice and holiness with fasting. Cousin Ann Quincy visited me in the evening, and told me of her children's welfare. Now about Mercy Short grows ill again as formerly.
Numerous people have issued apologies to families who lost their loved ones. Many people felt bad because they caused a bad reputation, but also ended many innocent lives.
May 3rd. I went not to court in the morning because of my letters. Dr. Mather sends me Mr. Daniel Neal's History of New England. It grieves me to see New England's nakedness laid open in the business of the Quakers in a Baptist's witchcraft. The judges' names are mentioned, page 502. My confession, page 536, volume 2, the good and gracious God to be, pleased to save New England, and me, and my family. July 16th. Keep a day of prayer in the east end of Townhouse. Governor, Council, and Assembly. Mr. Morton began with prayer. Mr. Allen prayed. Mr. Willard preached off God be with us. Who can be against us? O spake smartly about the Salem witchcrafts, and that no order had been suffered to come forth by authority to ask God's pardon. It has been nearly 250 years since the trials took place. Although many believe the events that occurred back then to be a terrible event, many of Salem's current residents find it a key part of Salem's history. As a result of the deep connection between Salem and its past, many buildings such as the Salem Witch Museum and Salem Witch Trials Memorial serve as reminders of a past that won't soon be forgotten.
It is this rich history which attracts many tourists who flock to the many heritage sites in order to pay respect as well as learn about the ordeals of the citizens some 250 years ago.
Salem's rich history has earned it numerous appearances in our culture. This is evident through the television series Salem, in which Mary Sibley, a citizen of Salem during the time of the trial's life, is detailed. Another instance of this is the video game Town of Salem, a mafia-esque game which features the names of those who died and uses similar methods to portray the events that took place during the trials.
look into the distance or look at the camera?
Look at the camera.
Who's the director? John, you're the director.
I'm the director. What?
Yeah, you're the director now.
Why
so- What are we filming? Oh, that was stylish. Wow.
It's smart. You know, when you're in the woods.
Oh, it's so
survival is
smart. Oh my
key.
god.
Kevin, get back here now.
Yeah, bud.
Alright.
Kevin's gonna get lost.
Here.
That's what I said. Kevin,
Take this. We might
Start
be
learning
able to
this
use
part.
this. Salem was founded by Roger Compton in 1626. He